The age-old question, should you rent or buy a home in Canada? Which decision would get you a higher net worth by the end of it? When you have Canada's absolutely ridiculous home prices paired up against the absurd rental market, this is a question many Canadians are wondering. Which is the best direction? Does it even make financial sense to buy these days? In this video, we're going to be looking at every province from coast to coast. We're going to be using average post-tax household income against average home prices in each province to determine if renting or buying is the better option in that province. Before we get into it, a subscription to the channel would be sublime. Alright, let's first break down the criteria that we're using to make these decisions in the first place. For this to be a fair analysis, both the buyer and the renter in each province need to have the exact same financial position. It wouldn't be fair to compare a high roller, high income baller against someone who's just getting started in life and is still saving and renting at the moment. We will account for all housing costs, all of them, insurance, maintenance, interest, property taxes, closing costs, all the phantom costs that come with home ownership. The big difference here will be for the renters. All of the calculations I'm going to present to you will assume that the renter will have used the money for a down payment, along with all the other sunk costs of home ownership that I previously mentioned, and invest all of that in the stock market. The truth is, if you don't account for this opportunity cost, the home buyer wins every single time. You will always be worse off if you rent and don't do anything to build your wealth. The calculator I'm using for all these examples was created by Stephen Antonioni. It is by far the most robust and capable rent versus buy calculator that I've been able to find. And let me stop you right now. Before you jump in the comments and go, oh, this is disinformation, you didn't account for this, you didn't account for... Pause. I promise you, it accounts for it. You can check for yourself, I've got it linked in the description below. And I need to make this very clear. I'm going to be making some broad generalizations here. Every market, every person has their own unique circumstances. So if I were you, I would use this as a rule of thumb at its best, and at its worst, I would just use this as a yardstick for what the Canadian market looks like right now. Okay, without a further ado, let's get into this. First up on the chopping block is British Columbia. In BC, the average household post-tax income is around $91,000. The average price of a home is $1,017,000. Oh, that was painful to say out loud. And the average rent for a 2-bedroom is almost $2,600 a month. That's the provincial average. Yeesh. So, how do these numbers shake down? It's not great. Take a look at this. The total monthly housing cost for the homeowner eats up damn near their entire take-home pay on a monthly basis. So that means if the renter was to match that and invest the difference between the rent and what the homeowner was going to be paying, they're also in a similar position. That's blasphemous. I guess it looks like renting is the better option here. Maybe. Both are definitely not great. My advice is if you want to live in BC, you should launder money through cryptocurrency or leave. Next up is Alberta. In Alberta, the average household post-tax income is around $99,000, which is pretty good. That's not bad, Albertans. The average price of a home in Alberta is around $490,000, so again, not too bad. It's obviously not great, but compared to the income, it's actually a little bit reasonable. And the average rent in the province for a 2-bedroom is around $1,750 a month. This is way better than BC. You may not even believe this, but this one's a stalemate between renters and buyers. Both net worths end up around $162,000 after 15 years. By the way, the duration of all the comparisons I'm going to show you are for 15 years, which is even a little long considering Canadians on average will stay in a spot for 7 to 10 years. That may be outdated, that's just what I found, okay? Let's take a look at Saskatchewan now. The province where you could watch your dog run away for 3 days straight. In Saskatchewan, the average post-tax income is around $84,000. The average price of a home is $337,000. It's getting better. And the average rent for a 2-bedroom is $1,450 a month. That's not bad. So, as it turns out, you're better off to buy in Saskatchewan, according to the provincial averages. Those numbers don't seem so bad, but you have to live in Saskatchewan, so it's not all upside. Now it's time for Manitoba. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. So, moving on, Ontario. This one is interesting. In Ontario, the average household post-tax income is around $95,000 per year. The average price of a home sits at around $834,000. Ouch. The average rent for a 2-bedroom in Ontario is $2,400. So if you're an Ontarian, should you buy or rent? It seems like renting is the better option, but obviously provincial averages don't tell the whole story. Actually, far from it. Il est temps de parler du Québec. My French needs a tune-up. All right, Quebec, what do you have in store for us? Average post-tax income around $75,000 per year. Average price of a home $534,000. Bit steep. What does rent look like for a 2-bedroom? About $2,000 a month. So, how do the numbers break down? You should probably buy. Newfoundland and Labrador. Income around $75,000. Average home $306,000. 2-bedroom rent $1,200 a month. Not bad. What's the verdict? I don't know, man. They're about the same again. When you're working with smaller numbers, things compound slower, meaning the gaps between investment returns is not nearly as large as some of the other provinces. I'm looking at you, BC and Ontario. Nova Scotia. I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting this. You guys have an odd situation that I did not know about. Average household post-tax income around $72,000. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Average cost of a home, $405,000. Maybe a little high for the area, but not too crazy. But this is what threw me off. Rent for a 2-bedroom in Nova Scotia is $2,200 a month? You guys are being gouged out there. What the f*** is going on? Obviously, buying is the better decision here. Renting is terrible. I just did a quick Google search to figure out what is going on over there, and it seems to be commonplace to have 6 people, 6 random strangers living in a 2-bedroom unit together. 3 people per bedroom. I mean, look at this post on Reddit. $500 a month to share a room with 2 other people? 2 random people? Are you mad? That's like some shit I thought I'd only hear about in Brampton. I'm so sorry, Nova Scotia. Prince Edward Island. About the same income. This one's about $73,000 per year. Average cost of a home is $370,000. But check this out. Rent for a 2-bedroom is around $1,200, maybe a bit more per month. So if you can get a decent place for around that price to rent, renting is for sure the better option. New Brunswick. Income, home, rent, verdict, buy. I couldn't find enough solid information on the territories, so I decided to exclude them from this video. I'm sorry. If you live in the territories, the calculator is in the description. You can play around with it for yourself. Okay, after going coast to coast, it's clear that every province in the country has its own unique circumstances. You have whatever is going on in Nova Scotia on one end, and then you have BC, which I feel like I learned a lot from looking at all these different provinces. If you learned something here, or if you want to share some personal experiences from your own province, your own city, town, market, whatever it may be, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. There are some serious generalizations being made here. For example, the appreciation rate was the same across all provinces for home prices, which obviously wouldn't be the case in the real world because some markets are hotter than others. These calculations also assume a 2% increase in rent prices every year, but that could change, that could vary. It's just an estimate. Funny enough, it seems like rent prices are actually coming down right now, but I mean, that's kind of besides the point. This also assumes that the person or people who are buying a home in these instances can afford to just drop absurd amount of money on a down payment, which for most Canadians is a struggle. And on top of all of that, this doesn't even take into account the psychological factors that go into making a decision on renting versus buying, which in some cases can be more important to you than the financial rationale of that decision. And lastly, this doesn't really account for the other kind of costs of living that go with these provinces. I didn't look at how much peanut butter costs in each province and included that in all my calculations. So again, not a foolproof situation here, just a decent yardstick after all, okay? Making a decision like this, renting, buying, it's extremely nuanced. The purpose of this video is mostly just to show you that the ideology that we all grew up on, that buying a home is the only path to wealth in this country, I want you to know that is not ironclad, at least anymore. Again, friendly reminder to run your own numbers in your own market to get the most accurate results for you. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, and you may as well subscribe while you're down there. And if you want to watch a video about why 1.2 million Canadians are scared about what might happen to their mortgage this year, click this video here.